Let's do it. A very fitting person to be speaking to. My first interview after Thanksgiving here, the Monday after Thanksgiving. A man who accredits a lot of his success in business and a quality life to gratitude, which I've heard on other interviews and that. And Keith Sant's company name, Kind Home Buyers, resonates with me deeply. So it's going to be awesome chatting with Keith, someone that definitely has a similar operating system as far as how they go about life. I was very excited to get this on the books, and he's already been moving and shaking quite literally. After this has a pretty high revenue generating potential meeting from the new Scaling Real Estate Investors Group that Dan put together. So that's a little sneak peek at some stuff that we're going to talk about, because we actually have some almost mandatory tips, I'm going to say, that Keith implements in his business that's going to be, or that leads to a lot of success for him, and there's no reason why you guys shouldn't be doing them. But Keith closes 4 to 9 months working part-time, and have known of Keith for a while, have seen him on Carrot Cast, which I'm going to talk a few points from that interview and where he's been since then. I saw 2 interviews. One was about a year ago, one was just a few months ago. But just overall, an awesome guy, very grounded. You can probably tell by the company name, Kind Home Buyers. He's going to be someone that's pleasant to speak with and pleasant to work with. So Keith, thank you so much for choosing to spend your time on the 80/20 Real Estate Show and jamming, and also just so much that you've been doing the Facebook group already. It's funny, like over the weekend, just helping people out, offering phone calls, everything like that. So very appreciative and grateful for you and your time today, man, to help some people out.
Absolutely, Carlos. No, thank you for having me. I'm super excited, and just ask away. I'm an open book.
I love it. So 9 deals in a month is something that's a pretty dang high number there, isn't it? And you're about working half or less than half of what most investors are typically doing in a 40 or 50-hour work week, which is kind of the country or societal's norm there. I guess first, to break things down, what does your business look like today that you're only working 25 hours a week and closed 9 deals last month?
Well, let me go back a little bit, because I closed, I closed 10 deals a month, right after my first interview over with Garrett a year ago. Mm-hmm. And I was working 60, 70-hour weeks. I was hustling. I was trying to do everything. I was doing things that did not bring me energy, like things that drained my energy. I was miserable. I wasn't, working out. I wasn't doing the things that I really, wanted to do. And I know that, balances you and gives you a good life. But I realized, the money did not matter to me really at that point. Like, there's a lot of things that like bring me energy, and seeing a wire deposit isn't one of them. Helping people, making, closing deals that other people could not close, doing things that, people say can't be done. I'm competitive by nature, and so that's kind of like the stuff that I like to do. But there's a lot of things that I did not like to do, like, negotiating. I hate negotiating. Like, it's just not me. One of the things I started doing was getting a lot of negotiating off the table for me. Like, I became good at generating like low cost leads, and, ones that also are highly converting. And that's what I'm good at. And I feel like any real estate investment company, you need leads. And if you're not doing that, like, you could build all the systems in the world, but if you're not generating leads to fulfill that pipeline, you just got people sitting idle and yeah. Anyway, so I just went hard on generating leads, like the best I could. And I just started JVing deals with people. Like, I would generate leads and just send them to other people. Hey, like some of my friends, wholesalers, I would get half the profit, but I wouldn't have to do really any of the work that I did not like doing, like negotiate or talking, following up with title companies, just all the other stuff. I mean, I'm sure you could relate. Like, I'm sure, making podcasts is amazing. Like, you get to interview people, that's, but the stuff that actually gets it online, all the editing, all the branding, all that stuff is probably the least appealing part of that. So I just try to take the stuff that I really like doing and that it gives me energy and that I'm good at. And that's how I was able to actually close so many deals for the most part, is doing a lot of JVs and actually generating leads in other people's neighborhoods. Like, I got, really good friends all over the place. So why not add more landing pages in their area. If I generate leads, I send them to them. We do 50-50. I did 3 of those last month where I'm not even close to the neighborhood, like hours or states away. And I was still able to make like 15 grand off of just generating leads. But yeah, there's a lot of other stuff as well.
That's a good backtrack. That's a good backtrack though, because that's a very common reoccurrence, Keith, as far as like step one when I'm talking to somebody that's having a certain level of success in whatever they're doing is what we call the freedom focuser exercise, where you literally and it's kind of like, it's similar to Carrot's energy audit, but you're pretty much getting an idea of every single thing you do in your business, figuring out what you don't like, what's easily delegatable, what you enjoy doing, what's a high revenue generating activity for you. And that's something that you found out at the beginning of kind of your come up in the business is like, I maybe don't like negotiating with sellers. I didn't like negotiating with sellers. I liked back when I was wholesaling, I enjoyed building rapport with about anybody. But when it came down to negotiating, I was like, that's not something that gave me energy either. And I've heard you say the same thing. It's like, oh man, like, or even like potential mentors that you had spoke to before, you could kind of get a vibe that any seller they spoke to, they're just trying to get as much meat off the bone as possible or whittle them down as much as possible. And it's like, that doesn't really vibe with me. So you're able to put somebody else in there that's able to do the sales, and then you can focus on what you're good at, enjoy doing, which is lead generation. I know that you're big on the online side of things, which we're definitely going to speak to on this interview. But to recap, that's definitely a first commonality I see is the freedom focuser / energy audit, getting a lot of awareness what you're doing day to day in your business to the point, if you haven't heard of the exercise that we do, it's like to the point of really, really small things that you think are kind of like, you would kind of brush under the rug, and then focusing and doubling down on what you enjoy doing and something that's going to be a high return of your time, which is cool. And that's awesome that you've been able to do all the JVing and stuff. And Keith is out of Washington State, by the way, guys. If you want to connect with Keith, I'll make sure to have his social and Facebook and everything so that you can connect with him. But yeah, I'd love to talk about generating low-cost leads, what your marketing looks like now, and then we can kind of go back and talk about how you got into real estate and how that marketing mix evolved. But anybody who's going to see the title of this show, which I'm going to make something along the lines of closing the 9 deals, just you and a VA with 12K and working 25 hours a week, I would love to hear what your business looks like now as far as the entire marketing mix of what you got going on.
I mean, one of my biggest things is SEO, right? I mean, it's free to do. You just got to do it. But those leads are super high converting. Like I could close like 1 in 10, and the other 9, I'm able to get almost 1 or 2 realtor referrals out of those as well. So, just I spend a lot of time on SEO. I'm starting to, I'm still new. It's a new site. It takes a while to gain roots, but within the last 2 months, I closed 6 SEO deals, which are, at that point, free marketing. And I recommend everyone start. It takes a while, but a year from now, you'll wish you started today. And then, there's a lot of other little tiny things, just like I mentioned before, just posting on Craigslist. I post on Craigslist and I don't get a ton of deals, but like 2 to 3 deals a year. And I spend $5 a week on it. So $20 a month marketing budget. Like you can't even get close to a lead off of, in most markets, even on Facebook, for that. And another thing that I like to do is build, like I said, with the realtor referrals, I work with a lot of agents. I reach out to them. I tell them I'm a buyer, I'm looking for properties, and especially the newer agents, you could get a list of everyone that just got their license, right? Nice. And they don't know really a lot, and they sure as hell, everything they've been learned is, you get a state, get a nice house, typically, because that's what most agents are doing, is listing nice houses, staging them, this and that, like someone that, if they get a lead and, maybe an aunt or something, but they go over there, an aunt's friend, and they go over there and the house is a mess and it smells like cat piss. And they're like, oh my God, I don't want to do an open house here. Like, oh, but I remember this guy, Keith, he buys houses. Maybe I could still make something happen and still get my 3%. And so I do a lot of those. And, just reaching out to them, I offer to, send them leads if they, seller leads, and kind of build relationships that way. So I work, I don't reach out to 20 different agents in Tacoma. I try to get, a few key agents in different cities, within like a 40-mile radius. So, depending on the area, you got an agent in that area and you're able to work with them and get leads.
Love that.
Yeah, I mean,
so you got SEO, Craigslist, JVing on deals, utilizing agents. So that's going to be some of the tips I'm going to have in the show notes for you guys that Keith's able to utilize. Just a few bucks on Craigslist a month is going to bring in Keith, 2-3 deals a year. But at that point, the return on time, energy is not infinite, but close to spending that being that cheap. Same thing with referrals. And I love the advice that you said there, which is something that just obviously is logical and makes a ton of sense, but I wouldn't even have necessarily thought it. I even wrote it down here myself, is finding newer agents and filtering newer agents out and spreading it across your target state. Keith is in Tacoma, but is building up agents, like he said, with a little bit of a radius there. So those are some of the tips I'm going to have in the show notes, is utilizing Craigslist, which I know Keith can touch on, utilizing Facebook groups, which is funny. He's going to go to a meeting right after this interview with somebody that he connected with in one of our Facebook groups. Another thing is Google My Business rating, which is interesting and something that you should be doing. That ties in a little bit to getting testimonials from clients that you've worked with. How have you been so successful in doing that? I know a lot of this comes down to consistency, which is a massive principle for success as well in whatever you're doing. But how have you had success with getting the testimonials and the Google My Business rating, getting that up?
Man, Google My Business is like one of the low hanging fruits that a lot of people don't take advantage of, or they do it, but they don't do it correctly. Like, and it doesn't take long. Like, you could set up a good Google My Business page in like 2 hours, and that's it. Optimize it in 2 hours, and like, you will optimize it for certain keywords, and it's on a map, right? So like, if I'm, you kind of want your Google My Business page to be in the right area. You want it to have the right keywords. If you just Google Google My Business optimization tips, there's a few YouTube videos right there. Like one that was like 13 optimization tips, super quick, easy to digest, and anyone could do it. But it puts you at the top of the search results, which, with SEO, like I said, it could take a year to get there, but it puts you right there on the map for local people in your area. And yeah, it's a no-brainer to do, even, because people aren't searching. Let's just say, I don't want to blast out one of my friends' names, but let's just say you're, I don't know, Flip House USA or something stupid. But not if someone actually has that company, it's not stupid. But no one's Googling Flip House USA, like, to find their problem. Like, you want to have your name and keywords, so when people Google things, like if I was in Florida and I had Flip House USA and I'm trying to get on the map, even if you put Flip House USA dash sell my house fast, or dash we buy houses, you still have your business name, but now that just adds one huge level of optimization. It's kind of tricks Google a little bit. So now they're, if you Google we buy houses, Google might think that you're trying to, Google a company. And so they put the companies up there. And if no one else, and then the next level of optimization, go through that 13-step tutorial, but then just get reviews, like, let's just say there's 3 people that are all like, sell my house fast Tacoma. Well, if one has no reviews, one has 1 review, and you have 6, who do you think the person's going to click on? And like, it's a no-brainer. There's little tiny things, but I closed at least 1 or 2 deals a month from that, just from Google My Business, and those are free. It's the lowest hanging fruit out there for highly motivated leads, and you don't have to do anything really. Well, I still do, other than that 2-hour set it up, optimize it, and then it just basically sits there. But to even, draw a little bit more favor in Google's eyes is they got a little post section, like do weekly updates every week. It only lasts a week. And Google, they'll actually send you an email saying, hey, your post is about to expire. Perfect. It's a little reminder to just write a quick new one really fast. I'll just like, take a couple of paragraphs off of a Carrot article, slap them in there, put a title, and then put a learn more button with a link to one of your pages. Now you got a backlink to your website, and you got in Google's favor all in like 5 minutes, like just once a week. And that'll put you ahead of anyone else that's not doing it. Like at first, someone else in my market was the only guy showing up. And then I just made mine a little better. Then it was teetering on both of us. And then now I'm the only one showing up, just because I did things that other people wouldn't spend the extra 5 minutes a week doing. So.
Can I put that as a key Sant mandatory stamp of approval that anybody listening to this podcast should be doing, is optimizing their Google My Business page?
Absolutely. And there are ways to do it wrong and get like blacklisted. So if anyone wants to learn all those tips and tricks so you don't do it wrong, just hit me up on Facebook.
I appreciate that, man. I'll make sure that your Facebook is on here. That just it obviously makes too much sense. For those that do the Freedom Focus or Carrot Energy audit, they're not, super profound in doing SEO or Google optimization, and maybe they don't even want to watch the 13-minute YouTube video and try taking a crack at it, which I may not advise people to do if that's not a strength or gives you energy. What would you recommend for somebody as far as like outsourcing maybe some of that, or Craigslist, or what type of systems and processes and delegation can someone have in place for a lot of the like mandatory, Keith stamp approved tips that I have here, as far as the Google My Business, utilizing Facebook groups, which we can touch on as well, and the Craigslist.
Yeah, so I mean, just in group posts in general, like Google My Business or any other social profile like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all those that are attached to your business. Actually posting on them and being active and having, likes, shares, whatever, it does account for like, a few percent of Google's love on SEO. So it is important to do. I honestly don't do it enough of it. But I'm about to. But not that I couldn't outsource it, but I'm really working hard on my website. Like I want to turn it into an asset, like just a lead generating asset where I'm able to send leads all over the place. I don't do any of the work really. I mean, in the back end, and I JV with people. So I don't outsource it to a lot of VAs. But like my buddy I got a buddy that does, and he loves it. He found a VA on Upwork, and they post on all the profiles like a couple times a week or 3-4 times a week. So you could totally get someone to do that. But
very cool. Very cool. I wanted to hit a little bit on a breakdown of what your 25 hours a week looks like as far as, quote unquote work. We've alluded to a lot of that already is going to be on the lead generation and marketing side of things. But what does that breakdown look for, if you can kind of paint a picture for people listening? And then I want to talk kind of like team structure and how you're taking down these deals and what type of deals you're doing.
Yeah, so as far, and I work more than 25 hours a week, but a lot of it, quote unquote work, Facebook networking, other things, but I don't consider that work, but actually like, to bring in profits every week. So I still go on appointments. I don't go on many of them. All the phone calls that come in from my website come straight to me. I don't send out phone calls to anyone else, but any of the form fills typically go to other people. And I don't know, I found that people that actually pick up the phone and call are more motivated. I typically get more of those deals. And it just so happens, like, if I go back, from the last 2 years since I've been doing this in Washington, and the other year, I get a lot of deals on Sundays.
Interesting.
I don't know what it is.
What's the URL, just to pull it up by have you?
My company?
Yeah. I've tried
Kind House Buyers.
Okay.
Kind House Buyers. Yeah.
Nice. So that's interesting. You get most of your deals on Sundays.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it kind of makes sense. People have time,
Yeah.
you know, they're kind of relaxing. This is the time that they're like, you know, catching up on stuff, getting ready. Like most other days, like, and so, you know, because I know that, like, I'll double my Google, you know, I'll double down on Google AdWords that day. I'll do like other stuff. And yeah, anyway, so I do grab all the phone calls still. And that also gives you a chance to like network with other buyers around, because a lot of people call it, you know, wanting to be in your buyers list and whatnot. And then I go on appointments, but I mean, I went on 15 appointments last month. It wasn't many at all. And I think out of those 9 deals, only like 3 of them were just me closing them. I found the buyer. I didn't JV. And, you know, so all the duties and, you know, tasks that go along with that all factored into the 25 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a lower scale, like 3 or 4 appointments per week if you're going on what did you say, 15 or 16 for the month. So still handling the
Yeah,
intake and some of the appointments, but it's definitely niched down and curated to a point where like the yield you're getting from it, the amount of appointments you're going on and time you're spending on like intake qualification still is obviously making sense for you from a financial perspective.
absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. And are you doing the negotiation as well? I guess if you're going on the appointments, I know that's something that necessarily doesn't give you energy, at least on your journey here the last couple of years. But I'm sure that you do that in a completely, above and beyond ethical and, not to be cliche here, but kind way of speaking with sellers. Can you talk to that a little bit, kind of just mind mapping out your acquisitions, and since we've gone through some of the lead gen stuff here.
Yeah. I still do negotiate. Like I negotiated with those 3, and it was fun. Like, but I don't like doing it all the time, and I don't
Yeah.
like that being my whole day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really sucked at sales in the beginning. Like really sucked. Like a little backstory. I actually started wholesaling with my partner in Texas. So I'm up here on the computer. I learned how to do, you know, for a little over a year. I did everything I could over the computer, lead gen, set appointments, you know, make marketing stuff, send out to cash buyers, this and that. Well, he closed everything. And he was a rock star. So when I struck out here on my own, I went to an appointment and they wanted 120 and I needed to get it at 90. And I was like, what do I say? Like, I just didn't know what to do. So, I mean, I hired a sales coach, and that, you know, I did a lot. I practiced, you know, and I got good at sales, but I just realized, you know, I don't care how good I am at it. Even it still just drains me a little bit. And it's not something I love to do, but I do love getting out there and helping people. You know, and a lot of these phone calls, like, I mean, I got 2 phone calls in the last 2 weeks that, you know, people were crying on the phone, like, Keith, I'm just at the end of my rope. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have to sell the house. And I'm like, chill out, girl, you know, no, chill out, but you know, everything's going to be fine. You know, I will find a solution, whether I buy it or not, everything's going to be fine. Like, you know, it would, you know, break it down for her individual situation or whatnot, but I like helping people. Like, it's fun. It's nice. I don't really get you know, like I said, I don't enjoy the check like a lot of people do, but I enjoy those reviews when they're telling me how awesome I was and how, you know, how thankful they are. You know, I love that. And yeah, was it? Rambling a little bit.
No,
But,
dude, you're good. That's amazing to hear. I think all humans to a certain extent really enjoy helping people. Maybe if they're not in like a positive point in their life or have a positive mindset, maybe they won't tap into that as much or realize that to the deepest extent. But I think that's almost a universal truth for most humans, is like you kind of learn something, specialized knowledge or skill set, and then kind of life is just being able to help people and flourish and doubling down whatever you're doing that helps people. So that's awesome to hear. Some good nuggets there as far as your progression. And we haven't. I know I'm kind of jumping around. Keith has a lot of good stuff, and I'm going to make sure the show notes are concise as far as next action tips and steps for you guys, which is going to lead with the Google My Business and getting that set up for every single person that's listening here. You touched on a few good things here that we'll go back and talk about how you got into wholesaling specifically. But finding a business partner and also hiring a sales coach. two massive things. So what's your best advice on finding a partner? And I guess we can start now kind of like how you got started in wholesaling and then how you ended up finding this partner. I heard part of him on the Carrot Cast, which is cool, assuming it's the same dude. But we can kind of take it from there, like what drew you into wholesaling and how you got started, kind of your evolution in the space you're investing in real estate.
Yeah, I always wanted to get into real estate. I just thought the barrier to entry was too high. I mean, especially up here. I was screen printing, making t-shirts out of my house and just graduated from school. And so, I mean, I had like, some money, but not enough to buy a house and flip it. I didn't even know about hard money. I didn't know nothing. My partner Beto was flipping a ton of houses. He was just my friend, and he was flipping houses down in Texas. And, I invested in, one of his flips, and then, got a return, invested in another one. And I'm like, wow, this is freaking awesome. Like, I'm going to learn everything I can about real estate. And then I just stumbled across wholesaling. And I was like, Beto, what's this thing? Wait, we could wholesale? Like, what? He's like, yeah, I've tried it. It doesn't work. And I don't know. And I'm like, okay, you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. And we got a deal that month. And, it was a $5,000 check, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it, is decent for
proof of concept. The proof of concept is way more valuable than that.
Exactly. And then we just started knocking them down. I mean, doing 2, 3, 4 months. I think we did 7 a month, together. And he was still kind of part-time too. But I mean, I think when choosing a partner, it really, definitely you want someone you could trust, that you trust with your life, really. And you trust with your bank account, not necessarily your bank account, but they are basically, tied to, your financial health and well-being. And
an extension of it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't trust that they're not going to try to cut you out of deals or do little side things over here, like, but I give people a lot of leeway. Like I'll trust you explicitly until you show me that I can't. And then you're dead to me. Like I got you out of my life cheap. And, that's just how I feel about things. I don't like make someone earn my trust. I give it to you. And, until I see that you're, lying about a couple things or, so, but, as far as like finding partner, I just kind of stumbled across a couple good ones. Like my other partner, and so I have 2 partners in Texas, one in South Texas and then another one in Central Texas. And I was just wholesaling a deal and, trying to sell it. And then he reached out, and he's like a co-wholesaler. That's what he does. He doesn't market. He's got a couple of buyers, and he just reaches out to the wholesaler. Anyways, he ended up being a great friend and a huge asset. And we just bought a 4-plex together, like off of one of the leads that I generated, and we have a joint bank account. I trust him. And yeah, anyways, but I think just networking with the right people, and, after you talk to someone, it's pretty quick to gauge like who they are, what they care about, if they care about their reputation or care about others, and if they're honest and truthful. Like, I think those are the biggest things.
Yeah, good. And I say this a lot, that hearing someone's advice on something, I can talk to a bunch of people and they might have similar advice of networking, looking for people with trust, but hearing someone's philosophy behind their answer is always insightful in a different way. So a lot of people would have that, but even hearing your breakdown, the context, and how it's worked for you is super insightful and will be impactful for people. I think a lot of what you've done, just kind of picking apart some aspects of your success here, is being that type of person that's trustworthy. The company name, I want to hear exactly why you decided to go with the kind house buyers. I have the site pulled up here. But a lot of that is kind of being that person that's trustworthy, with whatever, business partner you're looking for and things like that, and putting yourself in good positions. Like we mentioned, the Facebook group, you're kind of there just engaging, which I really appreciate, helping people out. And now you have a potential really solid, relationship built with the person that you're meeting after this interview here. But would love to hear kind of your mindset around being and the company name Kind House Buyer, and how that's completely, dictated kind of your branding, marketing, and company culture moving forward, which is awesome to see on even like a day-to-day, like on social media. We haven't got to jam and talk really before, but you kind of know who people are to a certain extent just by kind of like what they're putting out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've always been a kind and compassionate person. I have a lot of empathy towards people. You know, I didn't know if kind house buyers was a good name or not. Honestly, the God's honest truth is, you know, I'd been working on, you know, SEO and the stuff for our Texas site down in Texas, and I wanted to start my own company. And, you know, one of the, you know, you want to start with, you know, good foundation, and you want a short URL, right? Like under 15 letters, but you also in this industry want it to say what you do. You don't want it to say realty or real estate, because, you know, people will get you mixed up with an agent, you know. So I was literally looking up, like, you know, synonyms, or, you know, for like honest or like, and kind, 4-letter word, boom, it fit perfect, it was available. And so I started my business name based on a good URL that was available. So, but everyone just says that, you know, a lot of people say that it fits. So
Love it, man. It makes a ton of sense. And you've talked about another thing, just as a side point, to touch on a few other things here that I definitely didn't want to leave you off the horn without hearing just kind of your, again, philosophical breakdown from you. But it's timely since we're in Thanksgiving. And this helps with just like micro actions, guys. So if you're listening to podcasts, you're going to hear stuff that you can do, like applicable stuff that you can do, like Google My Business Rating. Like you can listen to this, start pulling it up, take action, watch a YouTube video. But in another video, you talked about how everything comes down to gratitude and how that's such a game changer. I kind of want to get, as we're leaving Thanksgiving weekend here, I kind of want to hear just a broad stroke from you on how that's been applicable in your life and your success thus far.
applicable. I don't know. I mean, I am grateful, and I've always been grateful, but I never really knew how to express it. I was a real introvert, quiet kid. Like, I don't know, just, but once I
Kind
learned
of
how to
surprising.
express it.
I'm kind of surprised to hear that you're introvert. I feel like you're always, and that's part of the you know, the image that you see on social media. It's like you do all the networking and you're helping people out. That I wouldn't have even thought that you were kind of like an introverted person. So I'm surprised to hear you say that.
Well, I am when I don't know about what people are talking about, or I don't really, not sound harsh, but care about what people are talking about. Like, someone starts talking to me about football, I have nothing to say, like absolutely nothing, and I just stand there, you know, like. But if you ask me about lead generation and how to, you know, like real nitty gritty details on almost any form of marketing, I can talk your ear off about that stuff all day long.
Love that.
You know, and this is just the stuff I like and enjoy and I know a lot about. And so I just, you know, I could talk to, yeah. But
You've always been grateful, and you don't know you're as an introvert guy.
Yeah. So I mean, I've always been grateful, and I just didn't know how to express it. And honestly, just listening to that book, oh my God, never split the difference. Like, that was one of the first things I'm like, all right, I gotta, you know, one of the big things was empathic statements. And, you know, through those empathic statements, if you do them correctly, it shows people that you care about them. You're actually thinking about their wellness, well-being, you know, their mental states, like, and that goes a long ways. Like, instead of saying, I'm sorry, no one wants to hear I'm sorry, you know, just say, man, it seems like you're going through a lot right now. It seems like, it feels like, it looks like those little statements, like, people, like, they freaking work, and it just generates, like, energy is real, man. Like, energy is real. And just by changing those couple little like word phrases, you know what, yeah, that's helped a lot to show people like that I care about them. I'm grateful for what they do and what they bring to the table. And, you know, people want to bring me business. Like, I mean, I JV'd a deal last month with a guy who, you know, got the lead, got it under contract, said, hey, let's, you know, try to JV it. I sent it out to all my buyers. I mean, this thing was a turd. And it didn't help that 2 other wholesalers already had it under contract and could not get rid of it. And so when they get my email and stuff, everyone's like, delete, you know, didn't even open it. But you know, this guy, my buyer, actually, none of my buyers actually really bit. I mean, there was some, but he had a buyer that bit. So he brought the seller and the buyer to the table. I'm like, cool, man, just, you know, do your thing then. He's like, no, I tagged you in on it. He still gave me $5,000. Like, he did not have to do that, but it's because you know, I help people, they help me, you know, it's just, you know, mutual reciprocity. And like, that stuff happens to me all the time because I just give. And yeah, that's what, like, you know, Facebook groups. I was on, you know, I've been, you know, now that I know stuff, I actually have stuff to contribute that a lot of people, especially newer people or even experienced people that haven't really dove deep into a lot of the stuff. I see a lot of agents or investors just, pass off a lot of their marketing to some third-party company, and you don't know what you're getting, and they don't know what's under the hood. They have no clue. And so they don't know, and so they can't optimize it. You know, they don't really know. And like, I mean, I was looking at one of my guys' things the other day, and he's paying $1,500 a month for SEO service, man. And, you know, he's like looking at the number of backlinks. Almost every single backlink was a citation or in a directory or a news release. Like the crappiest citation, like those are worthless. Not worthless, you should do them, but on a very limited scale. And they don't, anyways, he's going to end up, I mean, that would hurt your long term. It might boost your Google rankings for a while, but once Google's smart, and once they realize what you're doing, they're going to penalize you and drop your rankings like instantly. He's paying $1,500 a month for that. I had no idea how bad it was. But anyways, yeah, I could just start talking about that kind of stuff. But I've done enough. I've done it all on my own for the most part. There's a couple things that I outsource just because I don't like doing them, and they were, but I still know how to do them for the, for the most part. It's like, I don't want to be a drywaller, but I should know how, what the steps are and everything with texturing and taping and everything. I'm not going to do it myself. I outsource it, but I know what a good, end product looks like and what it should cost. Yeah.
You make a compelling case for at least at some temporary point, either the owner of the company or someone, a business partner or something should be in the trenches of your marketing, especially if you're starting to get into SEO and stuff like that, where you actually are like, have a living, breathing, like pulse of what's going on with your company and what type of marketing message you want to have to the world. That's really your message that you're portraying to the sellers, investors, anybody that you're working with. So you do bring a pretty compelling point there of why either the owner or someone high up in the company should be involved in doing that type of stuff. Do you have any best advice here? I mean, feel free to share whatever you'd like as far as SEO optimization, since that is one of your main jams there.
Oh, geez. I mean, there's so many, the devil's in the details, just little tiny things. I mean, optimizing your images, for example, like it is a huge thing. One way to optimize your images, have a good alt text, meta description, and a caption when it's applicable or in a right spot. But another really cool little ninja trick that I learned is, you could geotag any photo, even like the Carrot stock photos. I'll download them off a Carrot. I will geotag them to a specific city, and then I put them back on my page. So if it's a Tacoma landing page, every photo has been geotagged with Tacoma. If it's Seattle, every photo you don't have to go to Seattle and take a picture to have a geotag.
Right.
There's a free geotag tool that does that, and I think that's helped me. I post anyway, so that makes it easier. Just one little tiny thing. If all things being equal, you and your competition have the exact same Carrot site, and you don't do anything else, but you have optimized images and they don't, boom, you're going up. Just all these little things. So if you just start analyzing, I mean, that's just SEO or one little tiny thing. But if anyone ever wants me to like audit their account, I mean, I'll do it for free. I'll just kind of look at and see what they're doing and give them some tips. Just hit me up on Facebook.
Keith offering up some massive giving on this interview. I've already been thinking in my head, I'm like, damn, we need to have him do like a live inside of a Facebook group or come on as a guest expert in our 80/20 Academy, and could literally have a different expert talk or speech or interactive Q&A type thing on all these different marketing methods, which he said that he can go, all day and talk about. So I love that. And this is not going to be the last time we chat. But I love some of the stuff. I've been like kind of typing away here just to make sure I can go back when I listen to the interview and make the show notes as concise as possible. A few things to touch just to kind of recap what we were speaking about. Never Split the Difference. Absolutely great book on sales and kind of understanding how the brain works. I love that type of stuff. Like just hearing kind of how humans are just really, really smart animals. And I love how that book and Pitch Anything kind of talk about the brain, where it's just like the very first thing you're showing is like you're not a threat to harm that person. And then you can work in the empathetic or empathic statements of showing like, hey, we're on the same team. Really interesting stuff, at least for me. And I'm sure Keith, if he enjoyed it. And I know that you listen to a ton of Audible books. I want to say a few hundred, if I'm remembering correctly, which is awesome to hear. What other book recommendations have been kind of crucial for you? And I love that you're listening to the sales stuff, which isn't a strength of yours to try to get that, or that you enjoy doing necessarily. As far as like an all day thing, I know you're still doing the lead intake and working with investors and JV and stuff. What other books, in addition to Never Split the Difference, just off the top of mind, have been super helpful for you?
Atomic Habits was good. I mean, it just
Love
depends on what topic you want to learn about. But yeah, I started listening to audiobooks that I dropped out of school when I was 16 years old, like the day I was, in freshman year, and I dropped out and got my GD on my 16th birthday. And I went back to school when I was like 23, and, no real education whatsoever. And I always hated writing. Like, it just wasn't my thing. Writing, reading, not my thing. Like, put some numbers in front of me, I could find that answer real quick, move on to the next question. But it's so anyways, I didn't want to, the very first quarter, they had a book reading assignment, we actually had to read like 4 different books. And I was like, man, I don't want to read this. How do I so I looked up audio, anyways, I got an Audible account, just crush it. And I would just listen to it. And I would do that with any class. Like, I started doing it with any class. You could find notes. You could, I'd find one book, and then I would find another book, maybe listen to 3 different books about one topic, and they all kind of give you a little bit more, understanding. So yeah, I just started doing that. And I do have like 300-400 books in audio or Audible, and I've listened to most of them. And I think I even gave you my account password, right? And log in, so you're listening to books, or I forget.
For Audible?
Yeah, I give a lot of people.
I don't know if you did. I'd be happy to share when we get offline here. I'd be more than happy to share. But that's another great key. And obviously, if you guys are listening to this podcast, you're in the era, the ballpark of listening to content. So yeah, Audible is amazing. I somewhat lean a little bit more towards podcasts because they're shorter chunks, but that drive I do to Carolina and back, I'm always listening to a good Audible book, which is amazing because I have about a 5-hour trip. So I can typically knock out either a full audiobook or a good chunk of one. So it's definitely awesome and impressive to hear. And along the lines of Atomic Habits, you just listen to a little bit every day, potentially build that into a ritual to kind of like self-automate that behavior and pattern. You're going to look back a year or two later and be like, damn, I knocked out all of these books and I never enjoyed even reading or writing. So that's awesome to see and hear, man.
Thank you. Yeah. I love podcasts. I love them. I think they're a lot more surgical. So even wholesaling, I listened to the wholesaling real estate Bible or whatever. It gave me a ton of great topics, but I wouldn't have known what those topics were. It gave me a big, broad overview. And then I go listen to podcasts that actually dive into each one of those topics to get more, just keep niching down, farther and farther until you know everything possible about a certain topic. And one quick thing, I don't know how quick before you got to go, but I tell people,
I can
when it comes to marketing, whatever you do, just do it right. Like, do it as good as you can. Like, the devil is in the details. And if you could just do something a little better than the other person, your conversion can go up, a few percent, 5, 10, 20%, which means, depending on your cost, those drive down, more leads, blah, blah, blah. But don't do anything half-assed. Just keep, I see a lot of guys that are like, oh, I'm going to start Facebook and PPC and direct mail like all this week. And I'm like, have you done any of those before? You don't know what's under the hood. And if you outsource it, you don't know if you're getting robbed or not, or if you're getting, less results than you could. So at least learn about the topic. Listen to an audio book about the topic for the weekend. So that way, when you do outsource it to someone, you know what questions to ask, find out what they're going to do, whether you like to do them or not, make sure they're doing them, So
a very, very solid perspective there.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just throwing away money. You might as well just light your money on fire. your marketing, file all your marketing dollars right there and just light it on fire. Cause that's what you're doing if you're not squeezing everything you can out of your dollars.
Very compelling. I even had to write down just making a really good point of doing marketing in-house, or at least becoming proficient at it to a certain degree before outsourcing it, so you know what the heck you got going on there. I want to talk a little bit about a certain point in your journey where you were where your revenue and quote unquote like success in the industry was going up, but you were kind of like not really enjoying, or you didn't have a great work-life integration as far as like balance of doing well in work and also enjoying life, and kind of what you went about doing to, I guess, how you got to that point, how that grew. And I know that you partnered up a few people in Texas, stuff like that, and started scaling that. But I kind of want to just hear a little bit from today's perspective, then to 2020 here, what that point in time was like for you.
The point in time when I was like doing a lot and or like the tipping point or the transition.
Doing a lot, but the return as far as like enjoying life and what you were doing wasn't there for you, and kind of how you transitioned out of that to where you're more so now.
Yeah, like I said, I closed like 9 or 10 deals. I forget. Yeah. Anyways, closed a bunch of deals. Made over 100 grand that month. It was awesome for, in that perspective, but I was just working way too much. I didn't like it. I did not like it. But now I had that cushion, I'm like, okay, now I can step back. I could stop marketing so much, think. I'm like, all right, I'm going to think. Actually right after that month, basically, I went to Carrot Camp and I learned, we did energy audit. We did a bunch of stuff and it just put so much stuff into perspective. Like if anyone has the opportunity to go to Carrot Camp, it's freaking awesome. Top-notch people, small, intimate, and yeah, it's worth it. I just did an energy audit. I kind of found, what I liked, what I didn't, what I'm good at, what I'm not. And then I'm like, okay, who do I want to, who could I get to fill these roles? Most people are going to hire, right? Because that's, it makes the most business sense. And I just partner with people. I give a lot, I could have 3 acquisition guys under me and then I got to manage them and, just the mental overhead and knowing that I'm in control of these people's futures and their family. And I don't want that stress. It's just not for me. So I didn't really want to hire someone. I have one VA that compared to $250 a week, $1,000 a month is not a lot of overhead. And she works her butt off for me. So I just trimmed a lot of stuff down. And I thought recently, maybe I could start hiring some people if I really wanted to, but I really don't. My goal now is to even, just keep doing what I like doing, doing what I'm good at, and then helping other people, do the same stuff as I'm doing. As far as lead gen, so I reach out to a bunch of people, that say they need help or they're not getting good results, or what do you think about this marketing strategy? And I'm like, hey, I hate typing. I hate, I'm like, if you hop on a call with me, I'll help you. Like I'm, driving an appointment. I got 20 minutes now, but I'm not going to type it up for 20 minutes and, just drain my energy. So I, help people. And in return, I just made a friend in a city. So if I ever get leads in that city, I could JV deals with them. So it makes a ton of sense for me. But yeah, that's my goal, is just to, build, my website more, my brand more, take it away from being so localized and start ranking more for like national keywords, and just JV with a bunch of people that I like.
Well, that to quote you from earlier, energy is definitely real, and I can see why people just bring you business just as a kind of a side benefit of just how you maneuver through life and business there. What you talked about going national kind of leads me to the last question or talking point that I have for you. And we were talking about it a little bit before we started recording, but kind of just what you're looking to do. We're at the end of the year here, so this is always a pretty introspective time as far as taking a look back at what you're able to do this year and planning ahead at least for the next year. So I'd love to hear kind of your plans, goals, vision for the end of this year in 2021. You may have given away a little bit of that doing some national or some intentions of being a national brand out there, but would love to hear from you what that looks like.
Yeah. So I mean, it's so competitive and so hard to get, to the top of like sell my house fast in any big city. But there's a ton of low hanging fruit. Keywords that are a lot easier to rank for. I mean, I don't want to give away all my keywords, but it's just like, just one. I mean, it's not that easy to rank for, but just having good quality content, right? Like Carrot does a really good job at giving you a ton of content. Like they give you like hundreds of pre-written blog posts, and you'd be surprised if you just tweak those a little bit. Change the pictures just a little bit, change the descriptions, add a couple of paragraph on the bottom, change house to home, property, whatever you want, change it a little bit so it's not like all the other thousands of Carrot sites out there. You're going to be more likely to rank, right? But I mean, if you go a step further and actually, I hate writing. I hired a blog writer. He wrote me like an article last month. No, I guess it's been like 2 months, but I have him writing me 4 unique, high quality, highly researched articles a month for, a bunch of different keywords that I researched that I found that, the search volume is up there, but the actual competition is low. So it's like low hanging fruit kind of deal. And like, he wrote me an article. The very first one he wrote a couple months ago was like, how to sell a house without a realtor. And that's not a low competition keyword. But I got on the page 2 of Google, which is cool. But for one of the random keywords that popped up, like I got number 5 on Google for paperwork for selling a house without a realtor. So now I'm on the first page. I've already gotten 3 leads from that in the last 2 months from one article I paid $350 to write, and it's going to be there forever. I know a lot of people that are paying $350 a lead, and as soon as you stop marketing, it's gone. As soon as you turn off your pay-per-click, or as soon as you turn, it's done and your business is dried up. But this is, Carrot talks about it all the time, evergreen marketing. That one good piece of content, it can stay on the web for a long time and still be relevant, because it's going to be relevant tomorrow. So.
For sure. So man, that brings up a good point. Would love to get to cap anything that you're looking to do in the future here, any goals, visions you have for 2021. But also any metrics that you'd be willing to share, of course, anything that you're comfortable with as far as some of the acquisition and marketing KPI type stuff, which I know that you've done on other interviews, which some that you alluded to, cost per lead, cost per deal, things of that nature. And kind of what your percentage of deal breakdowns look like, as far as like what percentage of those deals you're wholesaling.
Right. So, in the beginning I was doing a lot of pay-per-click, and I still kind of am, but there's so many people that come in almost every day trying to market in my neighborhood. It wasn't like that even a year ago or 2 years ago. And so I really trimmed that down, and instead of paying, spending 6 or 10 grand a month on pay-per-click, I trimmed that down and shifted some of the money towards the long-term things. As far as like KPIs on pay-per-click, I could, right now, because it just even went up more, is like, $300 a lead. But I could close like 1 in 10 of those, and then still get referrals from the other 9, or potential referrals. I shared in that group, like, it's like, I don't usually post checks, but you wholesalers need to know this here. The guys that are just throwing away their leads that they can't convert are losing so much money. I did over 12 grand last month. So I spent 12 grand on marketing, but I got it all back with my realtor referral checks. It paid for itself. And like, a lot of people don't do that, but it's really important to invest in finding rockstar agents. Give you all kinds of tips on how to do that and which ones to look for actually sending hot leads to, because you don't want to send them to the new agents, really. I mean, you want to throw them a bone every once in a while, but yeah. I started doing, the SEO, Google My Business. I mean, Facebook Marketplace is a huge one. People don't do it. You can make a lot of money in there. It's free to do if you do it right. And then, the ones that I just started doing where I'm out of state, but I'm just generating them online. It's a mix all over the place. It's hard to actually put a cost per lead or cost per deal on everything. And I haven't really been keeping track of those metrics like I should. but it's way down. I mean, it's way down. It was like, I was averaging like almost $3,000 a deal. And I mean, if you take 9 divided by 12, like it's a lot less than that now. And you know, with what I plan on doing is even doubling down on the organic. And, you know, I see myself over the next year, even spending less on Google and, you know, still getting the same results. So.
Love it, man. Well, Keith, a lot of good gives here. And like I said, I don't think this is gonna be the last time we're chatting, just because I feel like we could have a different section as far as, you know, advice on all these different strategies. I didn't catch it. Did you say you did have some advice you want to share as far as targeting agents to kind of work with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as far as agents, you typically don't want ones that are like to actually send leads that can close on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I typically don't go after like people that already have. You look on Zillow profiles, if they already did like 30 transactions this year, they're busy, and you know, they're probably doing really well without, you know, doing a big commission split kind of deal. But if you find, I like to go on like Zillow and like Redfin, and find the people that are like the preferred agents or whatever that are paying, and they got to give Zillow 30% anyways. But Zillow, typically, if you're an agent like that, you're typically getting buyer leads, and they're not all that great. So, you know, an agent is busting their butt, especially in a hot market like this, putting offers in, getting outbid, showing a ton of houses, you know, working their butt off for 3%. And, you know, that's just what they're doing for 30%. But if I approach them and say, hey, you know, I got a plan where I could give you 30%, you know, if you could close, you get 30%, but you just have to list the house. You know, these are selling leads. And they're like, what? That sounds great. So that's basically, you know, a real quick, easy approach. Is just look at the people that aren't closing a lot of deals, but are already comfortable paying 30% to Zillow.
Mm-hmm. And then you got a good value proposition for them to want to work with you for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, good nuggets, man. Keith, a Thanksgiving interview with a man who prioritizes gratitude and just having like a fun quality life that means a lot. And again, is kind of like a proof of concept for me. I'm always stacking up people like yourself that go about life, you know, being kind, friendly, helping other people. And that energy is definitely real as far as how it comes back to you tenfold. So very appreciative and grateful for you, Keith, for your time today, and kind of just knowing you, you know, the last few years here in the national wholesaling space. Means a ton of amazing people, my favorite part of the business. So thank you very much. I'm sure we're going to get you. I'm sure I'll be tapping you to see if you want to do some expert interviews on some of the marketing and lead gen stuff, because a lot of people have already been loving all your posts and shares inside the Scaling Real Estate Investor Group. So thank you so much, man. Hope you have an amazing day and a rocking appointment after this. And thank you guys for listening to this. Check out some Audible books. And what's the best place to reach you? I know you said Facebook. Anywhere else besides that, just Keith Sant on Facebook, SANT. Anywhere else besides Facebook?
You can call my phone number, 253-293-9789.
Love that. Keith Sant and Fernando Angelucci, the only people to give out their phone number live on an interview. I love that.
I'm not afraid.
Love that.
A lot of people don't take it up. I won't even take it up. Like, I'm offering to give you years of, you know, like I spend so many hours of the stupid computer learning this stuff, and I could save you so many problems, and you'd be surprised how many people don't take me up on it. So whatever. I mean, if someone's brave enough to actually call and, you know, want the advice, I'm happy to give it to them.
Absolutely love that, man. It's funny how we close out this interview. That's almost like a foundational action or behavioral piece right there to hit on, is just like taking action, not hitting like upper limiting beliefs of like, you know what, he's too busy for me, or I'm not worth his time, or whatever the thoughts are going through your head. That's a huge foundational piece that we're ending on there, kind of that mindset and belief and identity to take that action. What Atomic Habits talks about is like the identity is the core thing that actually drives behavior. I think in that book, it says identity is the North Star of behavior. So it's kind of like identity, systems, processes that get you there. But like, it brings to that point, guys. If you want to talk to Keith and you've been on here, shoot him a text, give him a call, say what's up to him on Facebook, show him some love, maybe leave a review for him if you want. That'll be helpful, or see how you can be helpful for him as he's building out. Yeah, that'd be amazing. what else could we do for you, Keith? Maybe leave a review or anything. How can someone help you that's listening to this?
You give me you could give me a backlink to your website. We didn't even talk about backlinks, but backlinks are like 50% of Google rankings. Like, anyways, we'll talk more about that later, but yeah.
Gotcha. Cool, man.
Post my website on yours and
awesome.
you'll have a big friend.
Awesome. I'll put that on there. We're Keith. Very fun to jam, man. Like I said, we're going to talk again. Hope you have an awesome day, guys. Keith, have a awesome rest of your day, man. I know it's a little earlier out there in Washington than it is on the East Coast here.
Oh yeah. I'm going to go meet up with another 80/20 member.
Love it.
Heck yeah. All right.
Love it.
Thanks, man.
My pleasure, man. Thank you. Likewise, man.